Hey guys, welcome back to First and 10 over here on Clueless Gamers. I'm your host, Pete, joined as always by a second, my co-host, Brian. Guys, we're back here, sadly, to talk about picks for the final week of the NFL season. And, of course, we'll be covering week number 17. The picks will be for week number 18 of the 2025-2026 NFL season. As we're in the new year, Happy New Year to all those out there. Hope it went well. Hope you were safe. And let's hope for a great year. But we have some football to take care of this season. Brian, we're almost at the NFL playoffs, what everybody obviously plays for, the creme de la creme of the sport, at least supposedly, the way it's supposed to be. And we have a lot to talk about. It's the most exciting time of the year. We really didn't get to cover it last year because of my computer really just kind of taking a crap and breaking. So hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully everything's fine this year and we get to cover the playoffs entirety. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, with all that being said, Brian, welcome you in, man. How you doing? Games are all over the place these days, and I just want to know how your new year went.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I had to work, so I couldn't join
Boo.
you guys in our friend gathering there down at Dillon's. Certainly would have been nice to be there, but
Yeah.
had other obligations, so missed out on that. But yeah, like you said, this time of the year with football, it's you have to have all these different channels and streaming
It's very
services to
annoying.
find all these games. I mean, from Christmas to Netflix and Amazon Prime, and then you NFL Network,
Peacock.
and then you got the regular networks. I mean,
Ah,
Peacock, it really is all over the place.
yeah.
And different days too. I mean, you had the three games on Christmas, none of which were that good.
No.
Then you had the two games on Saturday. By the time you got to Sunday, we were done with five games of the week. It kind of took some of the
Yeah.
juice away from Sunday to have so little games. In fact, the 4 o'clock slate last
Was
Sunday
two
had
games.
two games,
Two games.
and one of them was the however you want to nickname the bowl between the Giants and Raiders.
Yeah.
So it was not a great slate. But got one more week of the regular season, then like you said, it's on to the big games, and it'll be a lot of fun to break that all down.
Yeah, very excited for that stuff. Yeah, the toilet bowl, if you want to call Raiders Giants, the first overall pick, whatever you want to call it there. God, that game was it wasn't even a good game. It was just absolutely atrocious. Where clearly the Raiders were very obviously tanking with putting Max Crosby
Yeah.
on IR. Then he was posting videos of him dunking in his home gym. I mean, that is the most. That's what, you know what. Just as a side tangent, that's what aggravates me so much when people try to defend the NFL, and we love the NFL. Obviously, we have a podcast now for 6 years on the NFL, but everyone goes, "Oh, it can't be like the NBA, where the NBA they obviously tank for the first overall pick." In football, you could never do that. No, you can. You definitely can, and we've seen it where it's a contact sport. Okay, it's harder to fake that and dog it, per se. All right, but teams could just say a guy is hurt or a guy needs to be elected to surgery or we're sitting a guy for disciplinary reasons, even if it's total BS. There's all of these ways for coaching staffs, especially in the last few years where quarterbacks have become even more important and these first overall picks are so important. And the Raiders clearly wanted to secure theirs for possibly what might be Indiana quarterback Mendoza. Might be going first overall at the moment. So, yeah, hate when people say that. It's my little soapbox moment to start the show here. But, yeah, it's some duds last weekend. Christmas ended up it was going to be a good slate. And then as the season went on and all the injuries happened and the Chiefs season imploded, that ended up being a terrible slate as well. And even though Saturday games was what? Chargers-Texans was like important game, but it wasn't that great. And then you had the night game where it was like the Ravens hanging on for their dear life. The Packers are falling apart, and they're already in the playoffs. Two backup quarterbacks. The Packers end up having to go
Yeah.
to a third stringer at the end of the game, Clayton Tune. Really rough. Really rough there for the holiday season. So, yeah. But, guys, let's get into it. We'll dial the clocks back here. Week number 17. And you want to talk about a rough game, we're going to start with one because there's some things to talk about here, and there's major playoff implications. We're going to start in Cleveland. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers losing to the Cleveland Browns 13-6 in a game where, look, I understand DK Metcalf, first of the two games of his suspension after his fight with the fan, and his stupidity, plain and simple, for that situation. The Steelers lose Darnell Washington, the big tight end in this game, to a broken forearm. He's out for the year. Calvin Austin didn't play in this game. I get it. But you're playing the freaking Browns, man, okay, whose defense in the last month has gotten chewed apart. It played great for 3/4 of the season. Then they had games like the Titans and Tony Pollard running all over them. You're playing them. Shador in this game is pretty bad, easily giving the football away to Pittsburgh, trying to give it to them on other plays. And at the end of the day, you score 6 points in a game that relatively the weather wasn't awful for Cleveland. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't a snow game. And they couldn't get anything going. And Aaron Rodgers, his only solid drive of the game, drives them down the field at the end of the game, have a few shots at the end zone, 3 straight times to MVS, who is being covered by Denzel Ward. And the Steelers lose the game if they won it. The Ravens were eliminated. They won the AFC North. Now on Sunday night here, tomorrow night, as if we're filming this, will be a winner-take-all Ravens-Steelers, and I'm not feeling good for the Steelers. I think they are clearly the underdogs now, with Lamar Jackson announcing that he is playing tomorrow as well. Bri, what was your take on the game with just the Steelers just blowing a golden opportunity? And look, everyone wants to give Mike Tomlin credit. Oh, he righted the ship. He's got another winning season. Well, he's got another winning season probably of 9-8 and missing the playoffs. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think they, obviously tomorrow's game will have the final say on that, and I, for the record, think it'll be a good game. I mean, Steelers-Ravens always seems to be an intriguing football, but yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway from this one is it's a missed opportunity. They had built some momentum the last couple of weeks, and you thought going against a lesser Browns team that they would be able to have their way. And, the Browns, as we talked about, have had a good defense for most of the year, but as you said, it's kind of shown some holes here in the last few weeks. And so you would have thought, even if they weren't going to score 30, I mean, it's not like the Steelers have lit up the scoreboard much this year, but that they would get their offense running enough to a point where they could win a game like this. And instead, it was just a total no-show. I mean, to not score a single touchdown, right? All they managed was 2 field goals. Yep. Rodgers gets held to under 200 yards passing. I mean, I get it, like DK Metcalf not being there, but it's not like he's been a legitimate number 1 receiver this year. I mean, it seems like he and Rodgers have had issues getting on the same page at different points. So I feel like they had enough other complementary pieces to get the job done, and I just view it as a real missed opportunity. I mean, that's kind of the big takeaway. Like, they, as you said, they only had one drive late in the game where they moved the ball consistently. I mean, I think you have to question the play calling there down the stretch where you target the same receiver 3 straight times. And I mean, it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's a journeyman player at best, and not a guy who was really that equipped with this offense at this point. So I just think it really was a game where the Steelers fell flat, blew an opportunity. I know these division games, can give some fluky results, and that, more than anything, I think was what happened here. The Browns were able to pull it out, and the Steelers missed a big opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And then you remember the Steelers had that 54-yard kick, I believe it was in the early fourth quarter, that they missed. And then, you talk about a journeyman in MVS, but also that was classic Rodgers, was it not? If you told me Rodgers keyed in on one guy in the last stretch of the game, Pete, who was it? I would say MVS, because they had familiarity back in Green Bay, and Rodgers throughout his career, he will lock in on a receiver that he's extremely familiar with, and he will force feed them the ball, especially in crunch time, no matter what. And to target their best corner in Denzel Ward, who after the game talked about, I have no idea why you would target me that many times. And, a lot of guys could say that, of course, because there's belief in themselves and all that stuff. But this guy is an all-pro level player. He's not the guy you're going to throw against when you got a guy who at best is a third string wide receiver 3 at best in MVS. Two of the first two seemed like they were on a miscommunication, and then they tried to throw the, kind of the fade ball on the third or fourth down, and they have nothing going there. That's a play where I will say DK Metcalf, they've practiced that a lot this season. He excels in kind of those jump balls, fades to the end zone. That's where I think they desperately needed him. And the way I'll look back at this season, if it plays out the way I think it will, with the Steelers missing the playoffs, is DK Metcalf cost his team a chance to win the division and go to the playoffs, because I think if he's in that game against Cleveland, I do think they win that game. I do think they score more than 6 points. I do think Rodgers has an average throw of more than 4.3 yards or something per throw. And I think he's the only explosive element of this offense, and his own personal actions in that Detroit game might have cost his team a chance at the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he's the one guy who can get down the field, who can make the contested catches, who can make big plays in that offense. They've gotten some big plays out of Jalen Warren in the passing game, little dump offs that he's taken for big plays, but those were kind of missing in this game. So the DK component was obviously big, and going back to targeting MVS, it's one thing for Rodgers, when he force-fed Devontae Adams the ball in his prime, when he's in Green Bay and Adams is playing at a Hall of Fame level. But when you're doing it with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, it doesn't quite have the
No.
same effect. So, big missed opportunity there for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we will see, as we said, Pittsburgh play again against the Ravens in the final game of the season. I believe, what is that, 262nd game of the season, I think it is, something like that. We will see that on Sunday Night Football tomorrow for a chance to win the AFC North. I mean, look, let's be honest before we move on. The AFC North, the NFC South, both divisions do not deserve to go to the playoffs. It's just the nature of making the divisions obviously relevant, making the division champs relevant overall, but neither of those teams are winning the Super Bowl, whoever comes out of either of those divisions, and they do not deserve a home playoff game. But alas, this is the way the schedule is, and we will see how that plays out on Sunday night. Bri, let's switch over to another game here. Talking about missed opportunities, the Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Buffalo Bills up in Buffalo, and yes, the game had some weather, of course, but it was 13-12 in kind of a rainstorm. They're lucky that it wasn't about 10 degrees cooler, otherwise this game would have been an absolute blizzard, which would have been fun to see. But at the end of the game, we start with Buffalo. They finally drive the ball down the field. A couple long shots. They struggled all day long, especially in the first half, which we've seen all season long, where Buffalo has struggled to put together halves together, very similar to the AFC's version of the Philadelphia Eagles, who we'll talk about them in a second. And with the game on the line, with a chance to just hit the extra point and tie the game and send it most likely to overtime, Buffalo elects to do the analytics fun, go for two. They have a conversion chance for the 2-point conversion, which would have probably given them the win. And Josh Allen makes a horrific throw at the end of the game, misses a wide open guy about 5 yards, and they lose 13-12. Bri, before we get into the greater kind of scope of the game, let's get down to the minutia there at the end of the game. What'd you see on that final drive and even that final play call with the Buffalo Bills? Did you agree with them going for the 2-point conversion, or should you think they have played for overtime?
I do not agree, and I said it as I was watching live, just watching that game for 4 quarters and seeing how the Bills were struggling to score. They didn't score until, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That was their first touchdown on a Josh Allen quarterback sneak. By the way, there are 2 touchdowns in this game where Josh Allen quarterback sneaks.
Yeah.
That was it. They did not have any other scoring. And so I just felt like they got in the end zone there at the end on the second Allen touchdown. I wanted to kick the extra point there and force overtime. And I know I read the things afterwards about how, it was the right call to go for two because of the Bills' recent history struggling in overtime. They have a bad record in the last 8 to 10 games under Sean McDermott in overtime, whatever. The bottom line was that game they had no business winning. Just to have a chance to tie the game, I
Yep.
think would have been considered a big victory. And the Eagles, by the way, were struggling to move the ball and score. That I would feel good in overtime with the way that game was going. They had the momentum that they would find a way to pull it out. And I know they drew up a play where, hey, if Allen made a better throw, they get the 2 points and they win it. I just felt like when watching the game, that moment, I was like, I don't like the call here. And I said it before they took the field and they didn't convert. And I just think it was a poor decision. I would have played for overtime there, and I think their chances would have been better to win.
Yeah, I was so bewildered and shocked at the end of the game with all of the people and even the next day talking about it was the right decision. Buffalo had to go for it there. And I'm sitting there just like you were as the play is going on where I'm like, wow, they're actually going to go for this. And I'm like, Philadelphia, for the most part, has dominated this game. Buffalo is lucky to be in this game. But the Eagles had 17 offensive yards in the second half, had 0 passing yards, nothing. They were doing nothing. They were dead on arrival. Your defense was playing well. Philly was being Philly, as they have been all season long. What would make you think at home, where the rules now are both teams, no matter if a touchdown is scored, have a chance to possess the ball in overtime? Why would you think when you have all the momentum with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns that you would not just play for overtime? You're not on the road where, typically I can understand it. You're on the road. Maybe you have a chance. You try to steal one. You don't want to play for overtime. You are at
Right.
home in the weather, everything, all the momentum, all the advantages to you. And let's be real. You have the better of the two quarterbacks by far on the field. And you go for it. And yes, was he wide open? Should he have hit the 2-point conversion? And did Josh make a terrible play and he kind of choked there? 100%. But I thought the decision was ludicrous. And we have talked about it on this podcast a
Yeah.
million times. And Bri, I think we're going to talk about it more in the years to come. And I think we're going to continue to be in the minority of this. Maybe the way we grew up, we're millennials, right? We're 30 and older. I get it. But we are old school in that way. And to me, this analytic bullcrap of constantly saying, well, you have a 65% chance, this, that, to go for 2. What are we doing? Sometimes we have to use common sense and go, the way the game is going, Philadelphia is DOA on offense right now. They're done. All we have to do is play for overtime here. If they get the ball first, we'll probably stop them. They have the highest percentage of 3-and-outs in the league this season. It's set a record in like the last 20 to 25 years of the highest percentage of 3-and-outs that the Philadelphia offense has. And then all you have to do is get the ball back and hit a field goal. Like, and the stuff after the game of, oh, well, what happened earlier, we didn't trust the kicker because it's an extra point, man. Even if the kicker's not great, it's a 33-yard extra point. What are we talking about here? I'd rather lose the game on a failed extra point than do that 2-point conversion. And you would say, oh, well, Pete, Sean McDermott and I wouldn't feel like that. You got to put the ball in Josh Allen's hands. Really? Because how many moments has Josh Allen showed you in those moments? This is not the first time that he has choked away a moment like this. And it happened yet again. I was bewildered at the decision, and it cost Buffalo the division, even though, yes, they had an outside chance because, the Patriots were probably not losing to Miami here coming up in Week 18. But leaving that door open to potentially still be a division winner, you cost yourself, and they deserve everything they're getting going on the road in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, and clearly we're on the same page there on that call, and I'm with you. Like I was surprised at the reaction I saw afterwards of like Bills fans I was seeing just reading social media, which is always a
Yeah.
dangerous game to play. But it was absolutely the right call to go for 2, and
Yeah.
clearly you and I did not see it that way. And just watching live, it just felt in my stomach like, no,
Yeah.
I don't like this call. I don't like the feeling of it. And then when the pass was incomplete, I was like, yeah, I just felt it, like they weren't going to convert in that situation. And I know Shakir was open and Allen missed him, but I just felt like the process there was not good.
Yeah, I think you could say, oh, it's coping or things like that, or oh, yeah, of course you feel like that, right? Hindsight's 2020. It's like, no, even though we can't prove it, I was like you in that moment, sitting on the couch. I was like, what are they doing? What
Yeah.
are you doing here? The game, it's pouring,
Mhm.
it's ugly. The ball could slip out of your hands. It could be a bad snap. Anything could happen, and the chance to make this game come down to one play. The extra point earlier in the game got blocked. Okay, it happens. Like we're acting like the kicker broke his
Yeah.
leg. Like it was blocked. What are the chances that an extra point is getting blocked twice in one game? I just don't understand it when you have all the momentum in the world at home, and it costs them, and they deserve it. But on the other side, Bry, the team that did dominate and ultimately win the game, even though they had a great chance of losing it there, somehow did what the Eagles do all season long, even in bad weather. They have one good half in the first
Yep.
half and have an atrocious offensive second half. 17 yards, as I said, 0 passing yards. I think it's like the third time, correct me if I'm wrong down below, this season that they've had 0 or negative passing yards in a half of football. I mean, you remember the Tampa game was one of those. I think the first half of the Rams game was the other one. I mean, I don't know what to do with Philly, right? Because their division's atrocious. They easily won it. They do feel dangerous in the playoffs because they have all these all-pros. But then at the end of the day, you watch them, and they just do not live up to the billing, particularly offensively. I just – there's a lot of teams like this season, Bry, but the Eagles are number one on that list that I have no idea what to do with them. I have no idea what to expect of them game in and game out. And I just, like, can this team win 3 or 4 if they want to go back-to-back games in the playoffs? I don't know. Like, they're good enough to knock off a team in the wild card or something, but I just don't know if they could string that many games together playing the way they are as inconsistent on offense as they are. Do you feel the same way?
I do. I mean, I think at this point, we have enough of a sampling that they're just not going to beat teams with their offense. Like, it's just not going to happen. Best case scenario for them is that you're going to get one good half of football, but they
Yeah,
haven't had 4 quarters of a good offensive performance all season. And it really is bewildering
not against a
with
good
the
team.
amount of talent they have on that side of the ball. But we've talked about it so much that the running game just has not been nearly the same. I mean, Barkley's performance, nobody could have expected it to fall off as dramatically as it
Yeah.
has. I mean, clearly the offensive line play has not been as good. The Lane Johnson injury has been a major factor. And the passing game is just very erratic. I mean, they have good weapons, but AJ Brown was invisible early in the year. Now, lately, it seems like he's the only one that Hurts can go to with the football.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's
it's
force fed.
Brown and occasionally Dallas Goedert. Right, Devontae Smith is up and down. He has some big weeks and some no shows, and they just don't have a lot of depth there with the pass catchers. So I just feel like we have enough of a sampling now to know their offense isn't going to do the job even in the playoffs. But the reason that they're dangerous is this is a playoff to championship level defense. I
Exactly.
mean, we saw it in this game. This was one of their best performances. They harassed Josh Allen. They have 5 sacks in this game. Jalen Carter was a menace. I mean, so they have big time personnel, Cooper DeJean and different guys on that side of the ball. That's that's why they're going to win this year. If somehow they get through the NFC, which I would say is probably doubtful, but if somehow they do get back to the Super Bowl, it's going to be on the shoulders of this defense and not their offense. That's just the way it is with this football team right
Yeah, if
now.
you watch this game in the stat box, you would look at Jalen Carter and go, 1 sack, 1 tackle. Did he really influence the game? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Like, the amount that he freed up other players on this team to get sacks, to get QB pressures, he's just a different playmaker, man. He's why at the beginning of the year, before him getting basically suspended in the first game, the injuries he had to both shoulders, I picked him to be Defensive Player of the Year. He's just, regardless of what you think of him personally, on the field, he's a menace, man. He is an impactful, dangerous player who really knows how to move the pocket. And He was harassing all night long. Phillips that they got from the Dolphins. I believe they had Hunt in this game. I think had a couple sacks. Like they were doing work. And this defense, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Campbell, all these guys make winning plays. And this defense has been great. And at the end of the day, Bright, as inconsistent as they are on offense, as a team, they're battle tested. They're clutch. They're proven. They're obviously a champion. And you know what? For
Yeah.
all of the things we've talked about them negatively, and a lot of them, they deserved it. If you look at their schedule, Brian, they've played a gauntlet, and they've beaten a lot of good playoff teams. So that has to count for something down the stretch. It has to. I just wonder, can they keep it up for 3 to 4 games to win another Super Bowl? That I don't believe in. But at this point, the season is so wide open, anything is possible. And who's to say that they've been one way all season and in the playoffs their offense is incredible? I mean, we just have no idea what to think of this season. And this game, to me, was more about Buffalo once again not living up to expectations this season, not playing well, and finally either getting a good game from their defense or playing maybe a struggling offense, whatever way you think that actually was in that game. I was very disappointed, I thought, in the performance of Josh Allen in the offense, and I don't want to hear all of the talk all the time. We know this guy is great. We know he doesn't really have a number one receiver, but he still has a pretty solid team. He has a running back that is going to win the rushing title. He has a pretty good offensive line. You have to do more than 12 points at home with your chance at having a shot at winning the division, and he wasn't good enough on Sunday, plain and simple.
Yeah, well, I mean, their leading receiver in the game is Brandon Cooks, who, and we talked about it when they made the move. I mean, it's a guy that they picked up off the scrap heap. It was supposed to be a
Yep.
nice little add to the offense to give you a little extra burst, not to be the guy who is your go-to wide receiver.
No.
So I just don't think the supporting cast right now with Dalton Kincaid, I mean, he's probably the most reliable guy, but he's not been reliable as far as availability. I mean, he's been too beat up in and out of the lineup, so they're not getting the same production out of the tight end position. Shakir, I thought would be better. I mean,
He's
I thought
disappeared
if
this
not
year.
a number one receiver, a
Yeah.
solid kind of number two. Yeah, he's been a disappointment. You know, Keon Coleman was a big disappointment.
Yep.
So I don't think they have the horses,
No.
frankly, on the offensive side of the ball. With you. I expect Allen to be better. I mean, when you get the credentials that he has, you expect better than 12 points in a home game in a game that you need late in the season. But I do think this offense, going into the offseason, however it ends for them in the playoffs, because I think in all likelihood it will be short of a championship,
Yeah.
they're going to have to go to work and bolster this offense a bit because I think they are a little bit short on that side of the ball.
Yeah, when you're relying on Gabe Davis, who you brought back, and Brandon Cooks at the end of the season, you're in a lot of trouble. And I think we're going to talk about, as this playoffs goes on, what a missed opportunity this is going to be for Buffalo with no Patrick Mahomes, with a really beat up down Ravens team that might not even make the playoffs, with no Joe Burrow, that Allen and this team couldn't have been better to really make a chance and a run at a Super Bowl. And I think they're going to fall probably well short of that, but we'll see how the playoffs shake out. Brian, let's go over to the great Sunday night game of Week 17 that obviously had massive playoff implications. Of course, I'm talking about the San Francisco 49ers knocking off the Chicago Bears 42-38 with a goal line stand at the end of the game on 4th and goal, getting Caleb Williams to have an incomplete pass. Kind of skipped it to his wide receiver in the end zone as he was pressured in his face, rolling to his left. What a game for both offenses going up and down the field. Caleb Williams, fantastic. Brock Purdy, fantastic. Even after he started off the game with the pick six, and it was like, oh, Nelly, this is going to look bad. Really rebounded and had an excellent game after that. I mean, this offense, Bri, as you know, as a fantasy owner of Christian McCaffrey, it runs through McCaffrey. He is the engine behind this offense, and when he is healthy this season, he has reminded people around the league he is that guy. What he did in the first half slowed down more in the second half. was nothing short of incredible. And he has a chance. It's an outside chance, but he has a chance of having 1,000 rushing and 1,000 receiving here as this game is going on right now as we're recording. He's had an incredible year regardless of how that shakes out. What a game. What a stand there. And the Niners have a chance as they're playing right now against the Seahawks at the number 1 seed. And the Bears, that was the end of their chance at the number 1 seed losing this game. They will either be the 2 or the 3 seed depending on how the rest of the games work out in week number 18. Bri, what'd you think of this game, particularly from these two offenses, and how you see this shaking out for both of these teams that obviously have already clinched the postseason?
Yeah, well, there was a whole lot of offense, not a lot of defense, but this was certainly a fun game to watch, a barn
Yeah.
burner, if you will. But, the one thing that you mentioned that I think is a big takeaway is how many teams have a pick six on their first play from scrimmage and end up just winning the game. I mean, I feel like that's something where you have a pick six on your first play, you're behind the eight ball that fast to win the game seems like it's not something that would happen very often.
Yeah.
And to score as many points as they did after a play like that, that's really the impressive thing. I mean, Brock Purdy has shown he's a tough football player, and the last couple weeks he has balled out. I mean,
He has.
he's accounted for 5 touchdowns now in each of his last 2 games. He had 3 passing, 2 rushing. You talk about McCaffrey. I mean, you almost forget that McCaffrey was a Carolina Panther, right? It's like, what? McCaffrey is a Panther? It
Yeah.
just feels like so long ago at this point. I mean, the fit with him in San Francisco in Kyle Shanahan's offense has just been a match made in heaven. And Shanahan, the job that he's done, we talked about it being maybe his best coaching job
Yeah.
yet with all the injuries and adversity that this team has dealt with. I mean, they have done a remarkable job. Defensively, they're pretty barren on that side of the ball. I mean, the Bears had their way in this game. Caleb Williams continues to impress, I would definitely say. But for the 49ers, you know, I just am very impressed with how they have come through all the adversity that they've faced and, seemingly not having a whole lot in the receiving group, but McCaffrey just relying on him and pulling out a game where there were points scored all over the place. It was uh, a very impressive job by especially Brock Purdy.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, he throws the pick six, and the next 2 drives in the first quarter alone, he leads touchdowns. I mean, if that's not responding, going back-to-back offensive possessions and responding immediately upon your massive mistake to start the game, there's a lot of things you could say about Purdy. We've talked about him at length on the show over the years. We both thought a couple of years ago, even when he was having that great season, it was a little bit insane that he was being considered an MVP candidate. He wasn't that level of player. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks have success in Kyle Shanahan's offense, most notably and most recently Mac Jones this season. But there's no denying that comparing him right to Mac Jones or years ago of Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy is by and far the better quarterback of those quarterbacks. And the extra element that he has in kind of his tenacity as a player, his mobility with his legs, what he can do extending plays or actually converting first downs, he's an incredible player for what he fits into Shanahan's offense. And I think he could be a Pro Bowl player. I think he deserves all of that. I don't know if I can ever say he's an MVP of the league based on having Shanahan as a coach, based on having many of the offensive weapons he's had over the years. Jennings is a good receiver. He still has Kittle. He still has a good offensive line. He has McCaffrey. He has, Shanahan as a play caller. But he's a damn good football player, and he deserves a lot more credit where I think a lot of people have to get over the bias of, oh, well, he's Mr. Irrelevant. He's the last pick in the draft. He's a damn good player, and we've been seeing that on display in the games that he's been healthy so far this season. On the other side of it, look, Caleb Williams has taken a lot of crap this season, even when the Bears were winning. He hasn't played fantastic. There's a lot of talk about his completion percentage, even though I don't think he's going to be a Drew Brees in this league. It's just not the type of player he is. But to get in this game, to have a relatively good completion percentage, to throw over 300 yards, to lead your team down the field with a chance to win the game inside the 5-yard line. I thought he was incredibly impressive as well, Bri. With that Bears defense is also not very good. They're opportunistic, but they're not very good as well. Two of the bottom defenses in the league here playing in this game, and I thought Caleb Williams, despite that, was still as impressive as ever.
Yeah, right. Like the Bears defensively, they force a lot of takeaways, but they also give up a ton of yards and a lot of points. But yeah, the point on Caleb Williams, I think, is a good one. I mean, he's clearly taken big steps forward this year. A lot of games this year, it felt like, maybe didn't play great for 3 quarters, but then showed how clutch he could be in the fourth quarter. This game wasn't like that. This game, he was good from the jump. He made big plays all throughout the game, utilized kind of some of the other weapons. This was not a DJ Moore game who had only one catch. Instead, it was this Luther Burden who goes for over 100 yards and a touchdown. I like Colston Loveland, too, the first-round pick at tight end. You never know how these tight end first-round picks, it feels like they can either be really good or really bad.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe this one was a little curious just because I thought Cole Kmet was already a solid player that they had entrenched there, but Loveland clearly has more upside, and he's come alive in this offense. We know, they can run the ball. Swift has been a good fit in that offense. Manungai has come on strong too. So I like what they have on that side of the ball, and defensively they can take the ball away. That's their biggest strength, but Caleb has clearly played better, and I think the Bears have to be encouraged going into the playoffs with their chances to make some noise.
Yeah, they have a chance to make a noise because they're a really good running team, and they seem like they are well coached and well disciplined by Ben Johnson. Yeah, they don't have the defensive pieces right now, but they're figuring it out and being opportunistic. Sometimes one turnover is all it takes, especially in a playoff game. I have to give Ryan Pace, the GM of the Bears, a little bit of credit. We banged on him throughout the years, but Luther Burden, I had some questions about that. Loveland the same way. Both of those guys have worked out. Rome Odunze, they take last year in the first round. He doesn't look great in his rookie year. He's really responded in his second year with an actual proven offensive coach. So they've really hit on some offensive pieces. They built this offensive line out. It was the first thing that they did when Ben Johnson got there. They got basically 3 interior linemen immediately as soon as the offseason started. So you see his influence. Drafting in the 7th round Kyle Manungai, and what he's able to add is kind of the change up there to DeAndre Swift. You have to give Pace and Ben Johnson, obviously, in accordance with that, a ton of credit for how they've selected these players and changed the identity there. It's all going to be about, Bri. If they win a Super Bowl, probably not this year, but even this year and the years to come, it's about Caleb Williams' development, and does he live up to the first overall pick or not? That's plain and simple. That's how it works out in this league. And I think he has the talent. He has the upside. It's clearly there. It's just going to be about getting that completion percentage a little bit up. He needs to be a little higher. It doesn't have to be 70, 75%. Can we get 62? 62 and a half, somewhere around there. Let's get it a little bit higher, hit more kind of the layups, the easy passes. And then I think it's undisputable at this point, even in his young career, he's clutch, man. He didn't come up with it in this game, but even leading them down the field with all the adversity they had going there, I thought he's impressive, man.
Yeah, and I don't think you'll ever look at Caleb Williams and say he's a top 5 quarterback in the league, but I think if you get him somewhere in the neighborhood between 5 and 10, then that'd be a really good place for him.
Yeah, it's good.
And I think the Bears would have something for solid years, a solid number of years going forward if he becomes a top 10 quarterback, because like I said, you said he's never going to be Drew Brees as far as his completion percentage, but if he crawls his way into the top 10 as a quarterback and as an overall passer, then the Bears are in good shape.
Yeah, I think that would be more than enough for them to win, and also he would by and far be probably the best quarterback in Chicago Bears history because that bar is very low. Brian, before we get to our picks and talking about even in a couple of the games that happened today, including the one that's going on right now, I don't want to run from it. Let's just briefly touch on, yes, The Monday night game, the Rams lost to the Atlanta Falcons 27-24. I don't want people to think I'm wearing the hat, that I'm running from it, that I'm not addressing it. I am addressing it. Brian, look, I said last week I still picked the Rams to win this game. Honestly, against my better judgment, because I said on the show, you could go back and check it, I said this game is a trap game. It's a really tricky, it's a sneaky game. And I felt, Atlanta had enough, particularly when they have a juggernaut offensive weapon in Bijan Robinson, who went insane in this game. I felt a little nervous.
Yeah.
The Rams reeling, 11 days off, had a massive, deflating, important loss up in Seattle. And it showed, Bri. The offense was bad. Stafford, 3 turnovers. When he gets 1 turnover, he seems to get them in bunches. He had 3 turnovers also in the Carolina game, a pick 6 also in that game. Almost had 2 pick 6s here in this Atlanta game. One of them ended up getting called back. Just a poor performance. The offense gave it a valiant effort there at the end. The block field goal there that got returned for a touchdown by Jared Verse. Love that guy. But at the end of the day, the Rams secondary is not great. Their defensive line's a little overhyped. And the offense didn't make enough plays. McVay easily got away from running the ball. I think they had an easy chance at a field goal early on in the game. You want to talk about analytics? They go for on 4th and 1. They get stuffed when you have 2 of your starting offensive linemen out. Why are you calling a run against the Atlanta front with Kyron Williams, a 5'9", 5'8" back? Thought that was a horrific play call. McVay's inability to adjust to things going on in the game, particularly injuries, whether they happen in the game or before the game, is one of his Achilles heels, man. He's an excellent coach, but we've seen it time and time again. I think if you're a Rams fan, a couple years ago when we played Cincinnati, we had a left tackle situation going on, and they refused to chip block and bring help to a third-string left tackle, and Trey Hendrickson wrecked the game, and we lost in Cincinnati to a pretty bad Bengals team. There's a million examples I can give of that, and I think that's what we've seen reared its ugly head. And, finally, before I turn it over to you, Bri, if I want to get up on my soapbox, look, Stafford played a bad game, but he's had an excellent season. I still think he's the MVP of the league. He's clearly not going to win the MVP. It's going to be Drake May, and I just don't I've seen a couple people talk about this in the national media, so apologize if you hear me repeating this point, but I really do believe this, that I believe the MVP is not really about the most valuable player and the MVP and the best player that season. It is much more become about 2 things. Who doesn't really have one? Let's get them one. And also, who was the best December player? And in this case, I don't think Drake May has played that great. We're a couple games removed from the Ravens game where, he led a comeback, but he was pretty awful in that game. And he throws 5 touchdowns against the Jets, and I'll probably have him win the MVP. So, that's my soapbox. I won't complain about it anymore. I just think, Stafford having one bad game that happens to be the second to last game of the season, unfortunate that's going to cost him the MVP.
Yeah, and we'll see how the voting ends up there. This was a very disappointing result. I don't think any coincidence though that they've lost these last 2 games not having Devontae Adams in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think he really makes a huge difference for this offense. And is he good to go this week, or what is his status here?
He's most likely not going to play this week. He just practiced for the first time this week. I don't think we need him this week. Hamstrings are tricky. We'll see if he gives it a go in the wild card game. I don't think he is going to be near 100%, and we'll see how it works out. To me, their bigger issue, Bri, is they need these offensive linemen to come back healthy, big time.
Yeah, well, that's always a big factor. I mean, with any team, offensive line play critical. But yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up well. It comes down to the Stafford turnovers. I think is the big thing. I mean, the fact that they were able to rally, they're down 21-0. They tie the game at 24. It didn't seem like that was possible the way the game was going. The Verse play was obviously huge, and what a play it was to
Incredible play.
Block the kick and take it all the way to the house. I mean, that was just an outstanding play. And, they had a chance even right down to the wire, despite all the things that had gone wrong. I mean, if Puka makes that catch along the sideline, and it was within a whisker of making a circus play, I thought he had it even after I saw the replay. I was like, I think he's got it. And then, of course, there's that one angle that shows it comes out.
Great
But
play by AJ
yeah,
Terrell, grabbing his wrist to dislodge it. Great play.
also a great play was just the fact that he was able to get the 2 feet
Yeah,
down. I mean, the way he like
he's
contorted
incredible.
his body to almost make he is incredible. And we know he's got to work on some things going on off the field, but he talked about his play on the field is just superb. I mean, he is an unbelievable player. But they let Bijan Robinson wreck the game. I mean, the guy went for over 200 yards. He had a 93-yard rushing touchdown. He
Yeah.
also had a touchdown of the receiving variety. You mentioned a couple segments ago you had a good call on Jalen Carter as Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to give myself a good call because we both have had a terrible year with the picks.
We have.
So let's give us some credit on one good thing. I said Bijan Robinson is Offensive Player of the Year before the season started. I think he's got a good chance to
Yeah,
do
he's got a good
that. I
chance.
mean, he's been remarkable and obviously saved his best work for this game, which was unfortunate for you watching it. But he's I feel like kind of the new Adrian Peterson when I watch him. He's just that kind of player. But yeah, otherwise disappointing for Stafford, who's had such a good season. I still think I don't know. I feel like it's a toss up right now between he and Drake May to win the MVP. But if you put too much stock into one game, I guess you could say that it would be costly.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bettors do. I mean, we've seen the Vegas odds before and after this game massively shifted as May is a pretty drastic favorite to win the MVP now. And look, that's how it works. People get influenced by the most recent thing that happens. Unfortunately, that's today's society, even outside of football. And that's what's going to happen. We know Vegas has a lot of power there as well with bettors. And I think unless Stafford, chucks up 7 touchdowns against the Cardinals, I don't think they have a shot. And even still, I think somehow Drake May against the Jets will prove more important than Stafford against the Cardinals. It's just how the way it goes. But look, he played a bad game, but the offensive line, look, I don't want to ever see DJ Humphries play in a National Football League game again, especially for the Los Angeles Rams. Holy God, that was one of the worst offensive linemen and left tackle performances I've ever seen in my life. When there was a play where he literally went like this, and the guy went right past him. I mean, look, he was drafted a long time ago by the Cardinals. I was thinking during the game, I'm like, is this
First
guy?
round.
I was like, is this guy an agent for the Arizona Cardinals? Is he intentionally throwing the game right now? Like, he was that bad. He had 2 touchdowns, both to Puka Nacua, called back by one not lining up in the line of scrimmage, one him tackling a defender at the line of scrimmage for a holding penalty. He was awful. I mean, absolutely atrocious. And McVay, he tried a couple chips, but not enough. Kyron, 13 carries for 92 yards in this game. They go away from the run. McVay goes pass happy. It was just a classic Rams game. And it's something that they've saved their worst football here for the end of the season, and they got a good shot at being the number 6 seed, depending on how these things shake out. They got to have a get-right game in Arizona, playing Arizona, and then we'll see what they do in the playoffs. But considering where they were 2 and 3 weeks ago, you have to think this might end up being a very disappointing end of the Rams season where they could easily get bounced in the wild card round. And the year they've had, that would be a massive disappointment for that team. But yeah, didn't want to just not cover that game. I didn't want to look like I was running from that one. And guys, let's jump over to picks. Of course, right before here, picks, we'll cover the early games here. Earlier in the day, NFC South matchup, the Bucs did defeat the Panthers in pouring rain in Tampa, 16-14. Quick surmise of the game, basically, because it was very ugly. Tons of turnovers in this game. The Panthers really had a late touchdown to make the score closer than it was, but the way things worked out because of the NFC South and this season, because the Falcons beat my Rams last year, this game was not a win and you're in. It actually only was that for the Panthers. For the Bucs, they need the Saints to upset the Falcons tomorrow to win the division. Otherwise, even in a loss, the Carolina Panthers will win the division, and the Bucs will drop all the way from 1st to 3rd place next season. God, man, the NFC South is awful. Either way, whoever's winning this division is going to be 8-9. We're going to see once again another not only NFC South participant. The Bucs did this a few years ago in the last season with Brady, but overall another NFL team hosting a playoff game under 500, which you never like to see. And I think after the season, Bri, we need to look at really what happened to the 2025 Tampa Bay Buccaneers and how they fell off a cliff despite winning this game. I don't know how much you caught of this game. I know you've been working a lot, but God, this one was ugly. What was your general takeaway of the Bucs knocking off the Panthers tonight?
Oh, I guess just finally getting a win. I mean, they
Yeah.
lost 7 of their last 8, and we thought this was a shoo-in, a team to win the division. About as easy a call that you would have thought on our preview show, and yet it's been a sweating it out here the last few weeks. I mean, as you said, it comes down to tomorrow's game, which Carolina, if they don't make it, they can thank their 2 losses against the Saints, and it would be a third that
Yep.
would do them in as far as the Saints beating the Falcons, which would take care of Carolina's fate. So I know the Saints played better down the stretch of the season, but if you're Carolina, all you had to do was beat the Saints once and you'd win the division.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for them. And they've done some good things this year. Bryce Young has clearly played better, but it really comes down to the Bucs just as much as they've
Imploding.
slipped here. But yeah. I mean, getting a win today, like you said, it was ugly. There were turnovers. I mean, it really came down to what they were able to do offensively early in the game. They scored on their first possession there in the first quarter. Didn't really have much offense at all the rest of the game, but their defense stepped up. So I guess you credit Todd Bowles for that. I mean, it hasn't been a lot of praise for Todd Bowles lately, but and the Bucs will take the win and see what happens tomorrow. I mean, if I had to pick, I'd say they're still going to find their way to sneak in, but overall, this is still just a very disappointing season for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it feels like no matter who wins, whether it's the Panthers getting in, the Bucs getting in, however the Falcons or the Saints influence that, this team's getting bounced in the game that they're hosting in the wild card round. They just nobody. You're watching the game today. I understand the weather was going on, but no one from this division deserves to be in the playoffs right now. It's just plain simple, and just the way things work. So I don't have much more to say on that game. It was tough to watch, and we've watched better weather games than that, and that one was pretty ugly. The other game going on right now is the Seattle Seahawks, obviously going against the Niners in San Francisco. On the line, the NFC West title and the number 1 seed right now as we are recording this mid-third quarter. Seattle up 10-3. Honestly, Bri, they should be up a lot more. They've had a missed field goal. They went forward on 4th and goal, didn't get it, could have had another field goal there, if not a touchdown. They're letting the Niners hang around, which is never a good thing, but 10-3 as we speak. Bri, let's jump to the games. Week number 18, as we just discussed, 1 o'clock kicks off. We'll know right in the early window. Saints, Falcons, who you got in this one, in this game where normally we would say, who the hell cares? Well, obviously, as we just said, it matters a lot who you got here.
Yeah, I'm taking the Falcons. I mean, I feel like this will be a close game, but I think Atlanta is motivated to finish the season strong. They've played well here the last few weeks. We talked about their win against the Rams. So I think, teams that have had a lost season when they can't have a chance to end on a nice winning streak, I think it is important for teams like that, especially when they can influence, who wins the division. So I think Atlanta at home here will pull out a close game, mostly behind the exploits of Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I'm expecting Atlanta to win as well. I'm picking them, but you never know in this division. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The Saints have played better in the last month or so. And the thing I take away from this game is not the NFC South determining winner. It's that the quarterback position, Penix for Atlanta, he gets hurt again, his 3rd knee injury going back to college. Kirk Cousins could still kind of play in this league. So they're lucky they held on to him. That's an interesting thing going into next year. And on the other side, you know what? Tyler Shuck, they might have a little something there. There could be something there. He's
Yeah.
clearly better than Spencer Rattler, who had a solid start to the year, but then we really seen him kind of devolve, kind of become the player that he was mostly in college and even back to high school. Have you seen some of those clips back in the day? I think there's something a little there from his maturity. He's an older player. I'm not saying he's definitely a franchise quarterback, but I think they definitely have to feel better about their quarterback position going into next season. The 1 o'clocks also kick off with Bengals Browns. Bri, the big thing in this game, the big storyline is, will Myles Garrett break the sack record? He's still 1 sack away. We're all waiting. He didn't have one last week. I'm taking the Bengals. I just think the way they've played, even though I know Joe Burrow historically has struggled against the Browns in his career, I think they're just going to be too offensively overwhelming. They want to finish on a high note. The other question I have, Bri, beside picking it, do you think Garrett breaks the record? Because I think he does. Do you?
He only needs 1 sack. I say yes, he gets it. I mean, Cincinnati is no great shakes on their offensive line. I think, especially coming off a game where he was held without one, I could see him having 3 in this game. I think
Yeah.
he's going to have a big game. That said, I'm taking Cincinnati. I just think too much firepower on offense, and the Browns, even with Garrett's stellar play, defense hasn't played as well. I know they had a good game last week, but I'm taking a Joe Burrow and company here.
The Colts head to the Texans, and look, we called this Colts thing. Everyone saw this a mile away. Beside Colt fans, weeks ago, they were 8-2. They were top of the conference. I think they were 7-1. They're about to lose their last 7 games. I'm taking the Texans. The Texans are playing for their division. They have a shot. If the Jags lose and they win the AFC South. It matters. I know that offense is not great, but the Colts are starting Riley Leonard. We've seen the last of Phillip Rivers in playing wise, barring an injury for his career, and I think the Colts are going to kind of go out with a whimper. I'm taking the Texans.
Yeah, Philip Rivers back to the recliner, back to grandpa duty, and yeah, I'm taking Houston here. I mean, like you said, it's Riley Leonard at quarterback. We like how the Texans have played here lately. It's a very solid team. I think a dangerous team going into the playoffs out of the AFC, and I think we'll end the regular season on a high note.
I agree with that. I just don't know how much, even in the playoffs, they have it offensively. They really have to get it going there. And hey, shout out to Phillip Rivers. Thought in his 3 games, he played pretty solid for a guy who'd been away for 5 years.
Yeah.
Titans head to the Jags. And look, would this not be so Jags that they lose to the 3-win Titans when the division's on the line? Absolutely. But I don't think that's going to happen. I love the way the Jags have played in the last 6 weeks. They've been on fire. They didn't play the greatest game offensively against Indy last week, and they still found a way to win. I'm taking the Jags here. It might be a tiny bit closer than you think, but come on now. The Jags are winning this, and they're winning the AFC South.
Yeah, I feel like the Jags are going to end the season with an exclamation point and win this game by double digits at least. Wouldn't be surprised if it was more. I mean, it's an overmatched team that they're going up against. The Jags have been flying high here. I think they'll continue with coming up tomorrow.
The Packers head to the Vikings in a game where, look, the Packers have clinched for a couple weeks, but they have not been playing well. And the Vikings, who've been out of the playoffs for weeks, have really been on a hot streak. Yeah, they're 8-8. They have a chance to finish above 500 for the season, which is pretty incredible how this has gone on. That being said, we think it's going to be Jordan Love playing in this game. The Packers have to get right. Even though they are the 7th seed, they've been locked into it. They have to win this game to have some kind of momentum going into the playoffs. I am taking the Packers. I think they will have enough to kind of take down the Vikings, who have been on this hot streak. I don't know how much I still believe in McCarthy. It's not like it's all been him. It's been more of Brian Flores' defense. I think the Packers have to get right. I don't think they're going in with a complete losing streak. I'm taking them.
Yeah, how about the Vikings on that Christmas game forcing 5 turnovers? I mean,
6.
just absolutely 6 turnovers. I mean, what a performance that was. The Lions, that was a tough one to watch if you're a Lions fan. I'm seeing this as a 10.5 point spread that the Vikings are favored. Now, I'm thinking that Vegas is thinking Jordan Love is not playing in this game, and that's why the spread is so high that it's going to be Clayton Tune, the third stringer at quarterback, because Malik Willis is also injured. So I would take the Vikings to win. I think the number is way too high here. I think the
10 and a
Packers will
half
be
is
able to keep
crazy.
it somewhat close. The Vikings have been playing better. They get McCarthy back in the lineup. Offense is still, not really been clicking there, but their defense is playing better. I think Minnesota will end on a high note, but I can't believe they're a 10.5 point favorite.
Yeah, Brian, I'm doing something I don't think I've ever done before. 45 minutes ago, you were all right. They announced Clayton Tune starting. Yeah, apologize for all the stuff I said, audience. Yeah, I'll switch to the Vikings. Come on, Clayton Tune. We've seen what he's done. He's not good. I am shocked that the Packers, when Love cleared concussion protocol 45 minutes ago, they said he is serving as the backup in this game. Why would you not want to get your team right and get a win when you've played like dog crap at the end of the season here in the last month? I think that's a
Yeah.
really bewildering decision on Matt LaFleur's part. To me, that's like almost you're conceding even the playoffs at that point. You're going to have Love come back cold. He hasn't played in 3 weeks. That's a really weird decision. But yeah, I'm switching that to the Vikings. Wow. I'm 45 minutes ago, almost 50 minutes ago. I'm shocked by that. Wow. No wonder that's a 10.5 point game. That is crazy. Hey, the Vikings have a chance to finish above 500. The Cowboys head to the Giants. I'm taking the Cowboys. The Giants are bad. They cost themselves maybe for the second year in a row the number one pick, winning last week. I think kind of all those good feelings end. I think Dallas ends on kind of a 8-8 and one note to end the season. I'm taking them.
Well, that record certainly sounds like the Cowboys. I mean, we saw a lot of 8-8s from them in our football lives, and now even with the extra game, they still go 8-8 with the tie, and that's with a win tomorrow. I mean, wouldn't it be very Giants though to win this game and
Absolutely.
end this
Absolutely.
this wretched season with back-to-back wins, which would cost them a lot of places in draft position, and make their fans very unhappy to say the least. So I see this being a close game. Frankly, I'm going to take the Cowboys to pull it out, but I really could see the Giants, and it would really be something to discuss if they this season with back-to-back wins and end up picking like 7 or 8 instead of the top three.
God, I could see it, man. That's the scary thing. It's just, God, that would be horrible for Giants fans. The 425 games kick off with the Jets at the Bills. Everything we said about the Bills, they're playing maybe the second worst team in football outside of the Raiders, the Bills by 5,000.
Yeah, I mean, as Josh Allen, there was talk that he might not even play. I think he is going to play. I mean, it probably won't be the whole game at this point. I mean, it doesn't matter. What we've seen from the Jets is a total embarrassment, none more so than the last game against New England. I mean, look, I had no hope that that would be a close game, but for that to be just as uncompetitive as it was, I mean, it gets worse by the week with this franchise. It has just turned so disgusting
Yeah.
watching them that it's just you don't even want to. You don't even want to put the game on Sunday. That's how bad it's gotten. Their defense allowed 6 straight possessions with touchdowns last game. It was like the defense was not even trying. I mean, I've never seen receivers running more wide open on the Hunter Henry
Horrible.
touchdown. When I saw that, I was like, I don't think I've ever seen a player more wide open than I saw on this. So yeah, it's an embarrassment. It's going to be another loss. It's just a matter of how many. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, Allen's expected the X-rays on his foot were negative. He's expected to play. Obviously, he wants to keep that streak going for consecutive starts, but I think he's going to play a decent amount given the loss last week, and that is important for the Bills to kind of have some momentum going in. I don't think he's going to play this whole game. They'll probably put Mitch Trubisky in at some point, but the Jets, there's no believing in them right now. And even when in the middle of the season you had a little bit of momentum with them, oh, could they be something? They beat the Falcons, they beat the Bengals. I just got to ask you, Bri, as the resident Jets fan here, the Monday after the season is always, kind of quoted as Black Monday. It's when most coaches get fired in the league if they haven't been fired in season. Do you think Aaron Glenn, snap call, is one and done, or does he get another season?
I think he will get another season. I just think you cannot continue the cycle of constantly changing coaches. I mean, who is going to want the job to begin with?
No
I
one.
mean, so starting over again, it's not going to do anything. And look, I don't think right now he's the answer by any stretch of the imagination. But the reality is, midway through the season, they traded away, key players on defense. They knew the season wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, that bought him at least the start of next year. I don't know that he'll get through the entire next season, but I don't think he will be fired after one season when, let's be honest, the personnel is just a
Atrocious.
disaster with this team right now. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, I could feel you there. And also, they got to get a quarterback because, God, they are bad. And they owe so much money to Justin Fields next year. It's insane. The Lions head to the Bears, and the Lions have a chance to finish above 500 here, 9-8. I know it's been an extremely disappointing year, but hell, if the Vikings win and the Lions win, you have all four teams in the NFC North be above 500. I don't know if I could ever remember that being the case in any recent years. I don't know if you could recall any of that, but that would be pretty insane. That being said, look, the Bears are still playing for seeding here. They are playing for the 2 seed or the 3 seed. It is still important for them to win. I just think the Lions right now, they're in Chicago. We know how Jared Goff plays in cold weather games. Ram fans definitely know that. They've lost faith given the last 2 years have been so fantastic. They won 15 games last year. Now they're probably going to finish 8-9. I think they're dead. I'm taking the Bears in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I think, what we saw at the Christmas game looked like a team that was absolutely dejected. I mean, just couldn't do anything right on the offensive side of the ball. It just feels like they've lost their edge this season. I just don't see how they end the year in a road game against a team that, still wants the game for seeding purposes. I'm taking the Bears.
The Chargers head to the Broncos in a huge game here where the Broncos have already they've wrapped up the AFC West, but they have to win this game to secure the number 1 seed. They do not want New England to steal the number 1 seed from them. And the Chargers, yeah, they're not really playing for much. Herbert's not starting in this game. We already know that. They're kind of just conceded to where they're going to be sitting right now in the playoffs, probably around the 6th seed or so. I think the Broncos win this one in a game that's probably closer than it should be given there's no Justin Herbert, but I'm still taking the Denver Broncos.
Agreed. The divisional games a lot of times end up being closer, regardless of the circumstances. A team playing a backup quarterback, a lot of times it doesn't matter in these kind of games. Just the familiarity level is too close. So I think the Broncos win, but I think it'll be inside 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it just feels like divisional football, doesn't it? The Cardinals head to the Rams, and look, the Rams have announced what they normally don't do, whether they're in a good spot or just the way McVay believes at the end of the season. They are playing all their starters, at least for the beginning of the game. McVay believes they need to get right. I agree as well. I understand there's always a risk of injury, but the way they've played in the last couple weeks, they have to get it together, get some momentum going into the playoffs. I'm taking them to beat the Cardinals and hopefully provide a good showing for the end of the year, get to 12 wins.
Yeah, I mean, you have to believe in the Rams against Arizona defense has not stopped anybody. I think you see a big bounce back from Stafford and this offense and Puka Nacua, who lit up the Cardinals in the earlier meeting between the two teams. I think he'll feast. I think it's a big day for the Rams offense, scoring 30 plus. I think they roll to a win.
Straight up, Brian, I mean, let's just be real. The Rams lose this game and the Cardinals win, and they've lost 3 in a row to end the season. Next week on the podcast, I will be saying 1, 2, 3 Cancun. They're getting wiped in the wild card round. So, I mean, that's just straight up. So, let's see what they got here. The Chiefs will play the Raiders in a game that nobody really expected to not only showcase 2 well below 500 teams, but the Raiders, They just secured the first overall pick. They win this game, the Giants lose. They could jump back out of the first overall pick. So this is a game they kind of want to lose. That being said, the Chiefs also were starting a third stringer in Oladukin. So it's like, do they have enough even to win this game? And what could be Travis Kelce's last game? We don't even know if he's set to play because he might end up finishing his career in the last game there in Arrowhead, with this one being on the road. Brian, I'm kind of torn on this game. It's honestly, who wants to lose more because it's a better draft pick? Who you got in this one?
Well, I'm taking the Chiefs. I mean, even with Oladokin, Christmas night, you know what? They were in that game against the Broncos. That was a
Sadly.
competitive game all the way through. It was by no means a blowout, so he didn't play half bad in the game. And I think, if it is going to be Travis Kelce's last game, which, is not confirmed by any stretch, but he's going to want to go out on a good note. But for me, this is more about the Raiders. I mean, we talk about a team that is in total tank mode. It's pretty obvious. The Raiders want to lose.
Yeah.
So I think the Chiefs will have enough to win this game. Max Crosby shut down for the season. No Brock Bowers. There's talk that Pete Carroll is going to be out the door. I mean, you talk about a one and done situation there.
Really bad.
That is uglier than anyone could have thought. I mean, I would have thought if they weren't going to be good, that with Pete Carroll, with Geno Smith at quarterback, they would at least be competitive. And my goodness,
I
for
thought
them
so
to
too.
just bottom out the way they have been, as bad as like going back to the Jamarcus Russell era, it's been that bad for the Raiders. So yeah, I think the Chiefs find a way to get a win.
Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs kind of begrudgingly just because I think the Raiders want to lose so bad, but who knows in this game. We both did not buy the hype that some people in the national media bought with the Raiders this year. We both picked them to finish in fourth place, but man, we did not think they were first overall pick bad. They have been a massive disappointment this season. And I think, speaking of Black Monday, I think Pete Carroll is one and done. I think he is going to be done come Monday morning. The Dolphins head to the Patriots. And hey, the Dolphins, look, they look like they're divorcing Tui here in the offseason. They've played pretty solid down the stretch. They have a chance here to finish the season 8-9. That being said, with the Patriots still having a chance at the first overall pick, they'll probably know about that situation as the game in Denver happens. They have things to play for in case the Chargers somehow with Trey Lance pull it out. I'm taking the Patriots all the way in this one. They're going to knock off the Dolphins.
Agreed. But everything was going swimmingly for the Patriots, and then suddenly these allegations come out with Stephon Diggs, and that's a black guy.
Christian
We don't
Barmore as
know.
well, the defensive lineman.
Right. Two key players, and I know the team has come out like in support of the players, which is kind of unusual in those circumstances. Normally, they kind of come out with a statement that they got to let the legal process play out and yada yada. But it seems like from their information, they think, there isn't much to these allegations. Who knows? But just the fact that they've come out, I do think puts a little bit of a damper on the success the Patriots have had this season. That said, they're playing Miami. I know they won last week. They beat the Bucks, but New England's been very impressive this season. I expect them to end the regular season with a victory.
Yes, of course, it's all allegations as things go out. Nothing's been proven in the court of law. But the one thing I will say is it's not a good look. And the second thing I will say is clearly somebody was sitting on this for a bit, and they kind of had it out for the Patriots because it seems like these things didn't just happen in the last couple of days, and both stories come out within about 4 days right before the playoffs where they just won the division. So that was a little bit of, that kind of journalism style of dropping it when you can get the most clicks on it as they're, kind of gearing up for a playoff game. We'll see how those play out. But for this season, I think both of those players will be there in the stretch run. We'll see how it goes in the offseason. The final 425 game is the Commanders at the Eagles. Look, the Eagles, they've wrapped it up. How much are they going to play starters? Sure, but they still probably want to get a get-right thing. They're also playing for the 2 or the 3 seed. So if the Bears were to lose, they win, they get the 2 seed. They do have things to play for. I think Philly needs to play. I think they will play, and I think they knock off the Commanders, who are beyond dead. Give me the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the Eagles will pull it out. Probably a little closer than you might expect to the divisional aspect of it. And of course, every game this week is divisional. That's the way the last week of the season works. But I think, the Eagles will probably play their starters enough here to score enough points, and probably won't be all that many because of the way their offense operates, but enough to get the win.
Yeah, I'm looking at an article just to make sure here. I think the Eagles still win because I think the Commanders are that bad, but it looks like Sirianni said earlier today a number of starters will not be playing in this final game, including Jalen Hurts. So I think even with Kenny
Okay.
Pickett, to be honest, I still think they beat the Commanders. I think the Commanders are that bad. But an interesting decision where Sirianni said, yes, the 2 seed is not a guarantee, and he is taking player rest as more beneficial as kind of a bye week over actually playing them. So I'm still, unlike the other Viking game, I'm still picking the Eagles. I think the Commanders are just that bad playing you know, whether they're playing Johnson or Mariota. I think it's going to be Josh Johnson. But yeah, that's a surprising decision. Pretty shocked on that one that they
Yeah.
wouldn't go for it, but I guess hey, they want the rest and they feel confident in what their offense could be. Any reaction you have to that?
Yeah, I think a little surprised. Is Barkley among the starters that will not play?
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, I guess AJ Brown as well. I mean,
Yeah, it
are
looks
we
like
talking
AJ
like all the top
Brown,
players?
Saquon, Devontae are among the people, including Jalen Hurts. So, and it's either going to be Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee. They haven't decided apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll end up being a close game. I mean, I don't think if they run Kenny Pickett out there that they're going to win by double digits by any means, but I will keep my pick with Philly.
Yeah, I mean, even if honestly, I know this is an indictment of the Washington Commanders these days, but even if it is Tanner McKee, I'm also taking Tanner McKee. I mean, we know Josh Johnson is starting for the Commanders. I don't have a lot of faith in a journeyman in him. Wow, that's a surprising one. Two surprisers here with news dropping tonight. The Sunday night game to decide the AFC North, Bry, the final game of the regular season, is the Baltimore Ravens still somehow alive, heading to Pittsburgh to determine the AFC North. Who wins the division? Who wins the game? And who's headed to the playoffs, Bry? Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, you might be surprised with my pick here, but I'm taking the Steelers.
Wow.
I feel like it's going to be one last moment here for Rodgers. I think we're going to see him in one last playoff matchup. I mean, I think the Steelers are more than likely going to be one and done in the playoffs. I just think the way this season has played out, the Steelers beat him in Baltimore a few weeks back. The Ravens, we've talked about their issues throughout the season, just have not been able to get on the same page all season. They played a solid game last week on the shoulders of Derrick Henry, who just went off with 4 touchdowns, gave a lot of fantasy owners a championship, I'm sure. But I just think this is going to be, one of these grinded out, kind of ugly, like 16-13 kind of games. But in this particular matchup, Ravens Steelers, it seems very often that the underdog is the team that you want. And they've got the Ravens as a 4 point favorite on the road. I mean, I get it. It's still no DK Metcalf. That's a big factor. But I just think Rodgers is going to have one last moment here. I think the Ravens have been too shaky throughout the season. Lamar has not been Lamar. He's not running like Lamar.
Yeah.
He's coming off a game that he missed last week. So I just don't think it's going to be a peak Lamar kind of game. And I think the Steelers are going to find their way into the playoffs.
Before I give my thoughts on that, just as an update, the Niners were driving, had the ball. I believe it was second and goal, right from about the 6 yard line, give or take. Pass to Christian McCaffrey, bounces off his hands in a rare miss, and the Seahawks pick it off at the goal line. They're up 13-3 with about 10 minutes to play. Huge game shift there from the Seattle defense and a mistake from Christian McCaffrey. Of course, number 1 seed in the NFC West on the line in this game. Yeah, I would love to see, getting back to the Ravens Steelers, I would love to see Rodgers in the playoffs one last time. That being said, I'm picking the Ravens. They have all the momentum. The Steelers have no, probably Calvin Austin. We know they have no Darnell Washington. They have no DK Metcalf. They look dead. There's going to be no TJ Watt. I just think all the momentum is with Baltimore. To be honest, Baltimore should have won this game a few weeks ago with a controversial Isaiah Likely touchdown that was not a touchdown at the end of the game. I just think the Ravens have everything in them. I know Lamar has not played great this season, particularly really from week 2 on. But him playing, I think they have more of a shot. They can be maybe a tiny bit dangerous in the playoffs, even though I don't think they're going to make a ton of noise. I'm taking the Ravens. I will say, Bri, if you're right, and the Steelers win this game, and Lamar plays and he plays bad, because we know he's playing. He plays bad. There's going to be a lot of questions about him in the offseason, the weird story that came out a couple weeks ago about him talking about contract talks. He might have been sleeping in meetings, allegedly, all of these things. And the way they've played in a couple of their games and their most impressive wins kind of this season against the Bears and just against the Packers with Snoop Huntley, there's going to be a lot of conversation we're going to have on everywhere and on this podcast next week, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm taking Baltimore to close out the regular season and win the AFC North.
Well, one thing you mentioned, T.J. Watt. I was under the impression he was going to be back in the lineup, so I just want to see if we have any information on that, because I thought I saw a couple days ago that he was good to go, and that is obviously a big factor whether he's in or not. So
Yeah,
let's see what we can come up with.
it looks like he's a game time decision. It looks like he said, quote, he's excited to have a chance to play. He talked in depth about his partial lung collapse, which obviously happened a few weeks ago in some thing he was doing or something. I had to look it up to see what it even was. But they're saying it's a game time decision. He said, I feel pretty good, honestly, quote, not sure. I could have said that a week ago, but I feel really good. I'm really confident. So I guess we'll see what happens. From that statement, you would say that he's going to play. He said he was in immense pain. Yeah, so I guess we'll see. I mean, even if he plays, I still do not feel good about the Steelers. We'll see actually as I guess he warms up to start the game there. But even if he plays, I know he's a difference maker. But how healthy really is he going to be playing in this game? And it just feels like I don't think Baltimore's getting swept here. I think they have all the momentum. I'm taking them. But yeah, thanks for interjecting with that. But guys, that wraps up here the Week 17 picks for Week 18 here of the 2025-2026 NFL season. Guys, I want to say once again, Happy New Year. We're in the new year. We're just about to start the playoffs next week. We're going to be wrapping up the Week 18 games, which, of course, have already started with Carolina losing to the Bucs. Right now, the Seahawks beating the Niners right now in the fourth quarter. And, of course, all the games we made picks about. We'll talk about that next week and give our playoff predictions for the wild card weekend. I'm so excited to get into that stuff, Bri. Any final thoughts you have for the ladies and gentlemen watching? If you've stayed this long, we appreciate you. Any final thoughts?
Well, a final thought, just as we were talking about the Ravens and Steelers, I wonder too the impact of that game, the loser, what the future holds as far as the head coaching situation. There are a lot of talk that the futures of Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh maybe not on the most firm ground right now, and that a loss for in that a game of that magnitude could prove costly as far as their job status. So that's a huge thing to watch for two guys who've been around forever. I mean, you're talking about going back to '07 and '08, respectively. So that would be a big change. And then finally, we're talking about the Jets' futility. I don't think we've raised this on the podcast, as I just hear you sigh audibly. But it's worth mentioning that their defense has gone the entire season this year without a single interception.
It's sad, dude.
They have as many interceptions as you and I on this podcast.
This is crazy. This is crazy. Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
No, it's a great, poignant way to say it, Brian. I think that was perfect. Yeah, it is bad. They are bad. It's crazy every year to just see the top 10 of the draft order, and basically 6 of the 10 teams are basically the exact same team every season. Whether it's the Jets, it's the Giants, it's the Raiders, it's the Browns. It's the same teams. The Titans now the last few years. It's just there's some bad teams and some bad organizations in this league, and we're going to continue to see that going forward. But guys, that wraps up here our podcast here. Please leave all your thoughts, picks down below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We know this is another long podcast, lots of stuff to talk about. If you've stayed this far, we greatly appreciate you, and we cannot wait to talk about the final week of the season next week, and of course give our playoff predictions. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends if you be so kind, and until next week of 1st and 10 to close out the 25 regular season, thank you for watching.